I used to be ashamed of my mother. That sentence makes me sick to write now, but it's the truth. For years I looked at Elena Rodriguez, the woman who gave me life and sacrificed everything for me, and all I could see was poverty, struggle, and embarrassment. My name is Sofia Rodriguez, and this is the story of how I learned the true meaning of love when it was too late to matter. But there's so much more to this story than I ever imagined. Secrets that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family, my past, and the sacrifices that were made for me. My earliest memory is of my mother's hands. Not soft and manicured like my friends' mothers, but rough and calloused, with cuts that never seemed to heal. She worked as a housekeeper, cleaning other people's homes 6 days a week, scrubbing toilets and washing floors on her hands and knees. She left our tiny apartment before dawn and came home after dark, smelling of bleach and exhaustion. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in the worst part of town. I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. We didn't have a car. We took 3 buses to get anywhere. My clothes came from thrift stores and donation bins. My school supplies were whatever my teachers gave me out of pity. I was the scholarship kid, the poor kid, the one everyone whispered about. My father left when I was 2 years old. I have no memories of him, just stories my mother refused to tell. When I asked about him as a child, she would get this look on her face, a mixture of pain and something harder, something I couldn't identify at the time. He made his choice, Mija. We don't need him, we have each other. But I wanted him. I wanted the father who would pick me up from school in a nice car. I wanted the 2-parent household, the big house, the vacations my classmates talked about. I wanted everything we didn't have, and I blame my mother for all of it. If she had been better, prettier, more successful, maybe he would have stayed. That's what I told myself as a child. My mother's inadequacy had driven him away. The shame started early, probably around 3rd grade. That's when kids start noticing differences, when social hierarchies begin to form. My best friend was a girl named Ashley Martinez. Her father was a doctor, and her mother didn't work. They lived in a beautiful house with a pool. Ashley had her own bedroom, her own bathroom, more toys than she could play with. I remember the first time Ashley invited me to her house for a sleepover. My mother walked me there because we couldn't afford a taxi and the buses didn't run to that neighborhood. Ashley's mother opened the door, looked at my mother in her worn cleaning uniform, and I saw it. The slight curl of her lip, the way her eyes went cold. Judgment. "Thank you for bringing Sofia," Mrs. Martinez said in a tone that made it clear we weren't equals. "We'll bring her home tomorrow." My mother smiled. That tired smile she always had. "Thank you for inviting my daughter. Sofia, you be good and mind your manners." I was so embarrassed I could barely speak. I wanted my mother to leave before Ashley saw her, before anyone else in that beautiful house saw the woman in the faded uniform with the tired eyes and rough hands. When she finally left, I felt nothing but relief. That night, lying in Ashley's princess-themed bedroom on a bed more comfortable than anything I'd ever slept on, I made a decision. I would never end up like my mother. I would be successful, wealthy, respected. I would have everything she didn't. And someday, I would leave this poverty behind and never look back. Middle school was worse. The social divisions became more pronounced. I was acutely aware of every difference between myself and my wealthier classmates. They had new phones. I had my mother's ancient flip phone that we shared. They wore designer clothes. I wore whatever I could find at Goodwill. They went on spring break vacations. I spent my breaks helping my mother clean houses. I started lying about my life. When kids asked where my father was, I said he was a businessman who traveled a lot. When they asked about my mother's job, I said she was a manager at a cleaning company, not a housekeeper herself. When they wanted to hang out at my place, I always had excuses. My mother's remodeling. We're having the floors done. It's not a good time. The truth was too humiliating to admit. We lived in poverty, and I was drowning in shame. My mother worked so hard for me. When I needed a computer for school, she took on extra houses and saved for 6 months to buy me a used laptop. When I wanted to join the debate team, which required a uniform and travel expenses, she worked double shifts for weeks. When I got accepted to a gifted program that required special books, she went without new shoes for a year to pay for them. But I didn't see sacrifice. I saw inadequacy. I didn't see love. I saw embarrassment. High school was my awakening, but not in a good way. I got into a prestigious private school on a full scholarship based on my test scores. It was an opportunity most kids from my neighborhood never got. My mother cried when the acceptance letter came. "Mia, you're going to have opportunities I never dreamed of. You're going to make something of yourself. I'm so proud of you. But that school, that beautiful campus with its manicured lawns and state-of-the-art facilities, became my personal hell. Everyone there was wealthy. Not just comfortable, but truly rich. Kids showed up in cars that cost more than my mother made in 5 years. They wore watches worth more than our annual rent. They talked about vacation homes and private jets and things I couldn't even conceptualize. And there I was, the scholarship student, wearing second-hand uniforms and carrying my books in a backpack from the dollar store. I stood out like a stain on white silk. I worked harder than anyone to prove I belonged there academically. I got straight A's, joined every club that didn't require money, volunteered for everything. I was determined to show that I deserved to be there. But socially I was invisible. The rich kids didn't see me as one of them, and I had left my old neighborhood friends behind. Parent visiting day was my nightmare. All the other parents showed up in expensive clothes, driving luxury cars, talking about their important jobs and their family legacies. And then there was my mother, arriving on the bus in her cleaning uniform because she had to come straight from work. She had brought homemade empanadas to share, completely unaware that the other parents had catered lunches brought in by professional services. I watched the other students look at her. I saw them notice her uniform, her worn shoes, the way she spoke with an accent. And I felt something toxic bloom in my chest. Not love for the woman who had worked herself to exhaustion to give me this opportunity. Not pride in her sacrifice, but rage. Burning, shameful rage that this was my mother, that this was my life, that I couldn't have what everyone else had. When she came up to me, smiling, so proud to see my achievements displayed on the walls, I was cold. Almost cruel. Mom, you didn't have to come. I know you're busy. Her smile faltered. Mia, of course I came. This is important. I want to see what my brilliant daughter has accomplished. One of my classmates walked by at that moment. His name was Justin Chen, and he was exactly the kind of boy I wanted to notice me. Wealthy, handsome, popular. He glanced at my mother in her uniform, and I saw recognition flash in his eyes. Isn't that one of the housekeepers? He asked his friend loud enough for me to hear. I wanted to die. Right there. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. And instead of defending my mother, instead of being proud of the woman who had worked so hard to get me there, I turned away from her. I need to get back to class. You should go. The hurt in her eyes haunted me for years afterward, but in that moment, all I felt was relief when she left. That night, she came home from work even later than usual. She had taken on an extra house to make up the time she took off for visiting day. I was at the kitchen table doing homework when she walked in, exhausted to the point of swaying. Sophia, she started, her voice gentle. I'm sorry if I embarrassed you today. I know I don't fit in at your fancy school, but I'm so proud of you. You're going to have a better life than I had. That's all I ever wanted. I should have hugged her. I should have told her she didn't embarrass me, that I was the one who should be ashamed of myself. But I was 16 and stupid and so consumed by my own insecurities that I couldn't see past them. Whatever, Mom, can you be quiet? I'm trying to study. She went to bed without another word. I didn't know then that she cried herself to sleep that night. I didn't know a lot of things. Senior year brought the college applications process. I applied to every prestigious university I could, determined to get as far away from my mother's poverty as possible. I got into several top schools, but the best offer came from Columbia University in New York. Full-ride scholarship, everything paid for. It was my ticket out. My mother was overjoyed. New York, mija. You're going to New York. You're going to see the world. I left for college 2 months after graduation. My mother helped me pack my few belongings, gave me money she had saved from months of extra work, and hugged me at the bus station with tears streaming down her face. You call me every week, okay? I want to hear about everything. All your classes, your new friends, everything. Sure, Mom, I'll call. I called twice in my first semester. Both times were brief, obligatory. Yes, classes are fine. Yes, I'm eating. Yes, I'm making friends. I have to go, Mom. Talk to you later. The truth was I was thriving. College was everything I had dreamed of. I reinvented myself completely. I told everyone my mother was a business owner who couldn't travel much because of her work. I said my father had died when I was young. I created a fictional past that was respectable, tragic enough to garner sympathy but not pity. And then I met Blake Morrison. Blake was everything I thought I wanted. He came from old money, the kind of wealth that doesn't announce itself but everyone knows is there. His family owned a commercial real estate company worth hundreds of millions. He was handsome, charming, studying business with plans to join his family's firm after graduation. He was also completely out of my league, or so I thought. But Blake saw something in me. My drive, maybe. My determination to rise above my circumstances. Though he didn't know what those circumstances really were. We started dating in my sophomore year, and suddenly I was part of a world I had only dreamed about. Blake's family had a penthouse in Manhattan, a summer home in the Hamptons, a ski lodge in Aspen. His mother wore jewelry that cost more than most people's houses. His father flew private jets, and they welcomed me into their world with surprising warmth. Sophia, Blake's mother said to me at their 4th of July party in the Hamptons, "Blake tells us you're first-generation college. That's wonderful. We admire young people who work hard to better themselves." She meant it as a compliment, but I heard the subtext. "You're not one of us, but we'll accept you anyway because you're trying." I smiled and thanked her and hated myself for needing her approval. My mother called regularly, but I rarely answered. When I did, our conversations were brief and stilted. She would ask about my classes, my life, whether I was happy. I would give one-word answers and make excuses to hang up. I told myself I was busy, that I had important things to do, that she wouldn't understand my new life anyway. The truth was simpler and more cruel. I was running from her, from everything she represented, from poverty and struggle and sacrifice. And my mother, with her cleaning job and her worn hands and her unconditional love, didn't fit into that narrative. Junior year, Blake proposed. It was everything you'd imagine. A romantic dinner at an exclusive restaurant. A ring that cost more than my mother made in 2 years. A future of wealth and security and everything I had always wanted. I said yes without hesitation. "We should visit your mother soon," Blake said after we announced our engagement. "I'd like to meet her before the wedding." My blood ran cold. The thought of Blake seeing where I came from, meeting my mother in her tiny apartment with her cleaning uniform and her poverty, filled me with terror. I made excuses. She's very busy with work. She's not comfortable with traveling. "Maybe after the wedding," Blake pushed. "Sophia, she's your mother. She should be part of this. We're getting married in 6 months. I need to meet her." So I did something unforgivable. I told my mother not to come to the wedding. I called her on a Tuesday evening, knowing she would be home from work. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright with joy like it always was when I called. "Mia, I was just thinking about you. How are the wedding plans going?" "Mom, I need to talk to you about that." My voice was cold, detached. I had rehearsed this conversation in my head a dozen times. Blake's family is very traditional. The wedding is going to be small, immediate family only. "I don't think you should come." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for so long, I thought the call had dropped. Then, in a voice I had never heard from her before, broken and small, she spoke. "You don't want me at your wedding? It's not about what I want. It's about fitting in with Blake's family's expectations. You wouldn't be comfortable there anyway. Everyone will be dressed up. There will be speeches, formal dinners. It's not your scene. Not my scene? Sophia, I'm your mother. I raised you. I worked 3 jobs so you could go to that fancy school. I gave you everything I had. And now you're telling me I'm not good enough to watch you get married? I'm not saying you're not good enough. I'm saying it's complicated. Blake's family has certain expectations, and I need to respect that. Maybe we can have a small celebration afterward, just you and me." She was crying now. I could hear it in her breathing, in the catch in her voice. "When did you become this person, Sophia? When did you become someone who's ashamed of where you came from?" Her words hit harder than any slap could have. Because she was right. I had become someone unrecognizable. Someone who valued appearance over substance, money over love, status over the woman who had given me everything. But I was too far gone to see it then. Too invested in my new life and my new identity. "I'm not ashamed, Mom. I'm being practical. This is my decision, and I need you to respect it." The call ended there. She hung up without saying goodbye, and I told myself it was for the best. She would get over it. Eventually, she would understand that I was just trying to make my life work. I married Blake Morrison in a wedding that cost more than my mother had earned in her entire life. It was beautiful, everything I had ever dreamed of. Blake's family and friends, people in designer clothes drinking expensive champagne, celebrating our union in a venue that looked like something from a magazine. And my mother wasn't there. My mother, who had held me when I cried as a child, who had worked until her hands bled to buy me school supplies, who had believed in me when no one else did, wasn't there to see me in my wedding dress. I had thrown away the most important relationship in my life for the approval of people who would never really accept me as one of their own. I didn't call my mother after the wedding. Not on the honeymoon in Bali. Not when we returned to our new apartment in Manhattan that Blake's parents had bought for us as a wedding gift. I told myself I was busy, that I would reach out eventually, that she needed time to get over her hurt feelings. Blake asked about her occasionally. "Have you talked to your mother? You should invite her to visit. I'd like to meet her." I always had excuses. She's busy. She doesn't like to travel. Maybe next month. The truth was, I had cut my mother out of my life completely. I had gotten what I wanted. The wealthy husband, the luxury apartment, the life of privilege. And my mother, the woman who had made it all possible, was an inconvenience I had discarded. But then something happened that would change everything. 6 months after my wedding, I received a letter. Not an email, but an actual handwritten letter in an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single page with just a few lines. "Your mother is not who you think she is. Elena Rodriguez is hiding secrets that will destroy everything you believe about your family. Ask her about Mexico City. Ask her about the fire. Ask her about your real father. Some truths are worth more than pride." My hands shook as I read it. Who would send this? Why now? I told myself it was a prank, some cruel joke from someone who knew about my estrangement from my mother. But something about those words wouldn't leave my mind. "The fire, your real father." I had always known my father left when I was 2. But what if that wasn't the whole truth? What if there was more to the story? Against my better judgment, I hired a private investigator. His name was Thomas Walker, a former police detective who specialized in family background checks. I gave him my mother's information and asked him to dig into her past, particularly her time in Mexico before immigrating to the United States. What he found 3 weeks later shattered my entire world. Mr. Walker sat across from me in his office, a thick folder on the desk between us. "Mrs. Morrison," he said carefully, "what I'm about to tell you is going to be difficult to hear. Are you sure you want to know? I need to know the truth." He opened the folder. "Your mother's real name is not Elena Rodriguez. It's Elena Vasquez Cordero. She comes from one of the wealthiest families in Mexico City. Her father was Alejandro Cordero, who owned a chain of luxury hotels across Latin America." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. That's impossible. My mother is a housekeeper. She's always been poor. Mr. Walker pushed photographs across the desk. Pictures of a young woman who was unmistakably my mother, but different. She wore expensive clothes, jewelry, stood in front of mansions. "Here's where it gets complicated," he continued. 27 years ago, Elena Cordero was engaged to be married to a man named Ricardo Montoya, son of another wealthy family. It was an arranged marriage, beneficial for both families' business interests. But Elena was in love with someone else, a man named Miguel Rodriguez, who worked as a driver for her family. They had been having a secret affair for 2 years. When Elena's father found out, he was furious. He forbade her from seeing Miguel and moved up the wedding date to Ricardo. Mr. Walker paused, and I could see he was weighing how much to tell me. "Go on," I whispered. 2 weeks before the wedding, there was a fire at the Cordero family's main estate. It started in the East Wing where Elena's rooms were located. Her father and Ricardo Montoya both died in that fire. Elena disappeared that same night with Miguel Rodriguez. The Mexican authorities investigated her for arson and murder, but she had already fled the country. She and Miguel crossed into the United States illegally with new identities. Elena Vasquez Cordero became Elena Rodriguez. My mind was reeling. My mother was a fugitive? Possibly a murderer? Everything I thought I knew was a lie. "What about Miguel?" I asked. My father? That's where it gets worse. Mr. Walker pulled out more documents. "Miguel Rodriguez, the man who raised you for the first 2 years of your life, is not your biological father. DNA records from a paternity case in Mexico show that Ricardo Montoya was your biological father. You were conceived before Elena ran away with Miguel. That's why her father was so angry. She was pregnant with Ricardo's child and still carrying on with the driver. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. So my father, the man who left when I was 2, wasn't even my real father? According to the records I found, Miguel found out about the paternity when you were 2 years old. He confronted Elena, and there was a violent argument. Neighbors reported hearing screaming, things breaking. Miguel left that night and was never seen again. 6 months later, his body was found in the Hudson River. The death was ruled accidental, possible suicide, but the case was never fully investigated. You're saying my mother might have killed him too? I'm saying there are a lot of unanswered questions. Your mother has been living under a false identity for 27 years. She's potentially wanted for questioning in 2 deaths in Mexico. And she's been lying to you your entire life about who she is and where she came from. I left Mr. Walker's office in a daze. Everything I thought I knew about my life was wrong. My mother wasn't a poor immigrant who struggled to survive. She was a wealthy heiress who might be a murderer. The poverty, the struggle, the sacrifice. Was it all an act? A way to hide from her past? But something didn't add up. If my mother came from wealth, why live in poverty? Why clean houses? Why work herself to exhaustion? She could have accessed her family's money, lived comfortably even under a new identity. I needed answers. For the first time in 2 years, I called my mother. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice cautious. Sophia, Mom, we need to talk. I need you to tell me the truth about Mexico, about the fire, about who you really are. The silence that followed told me everything. She knew. She had always known this day might come. Where are you? She finally asked. I'm in the city. I can be there in 2 hours. Come to the apartment. It's time you knew everything. The drive to my mother's apartment felt like the longest 2 hours of my life. Blake had wanted to come with me, but I told him this was something I needed to do alone. He had no idea what I was walking into. Neither did I, really. My mother opened the door before I could knock. She looked older than I remembered, more tired. Or maybe I was just finally seeing her clearly for the first time. Come in, Mia, sit down. We sat at her small kitchen table, the same table where I had done homework as a child, where we had eaten countless meals together. She made coffee with shaking hands, and then she began to talk. Everything you've heard is true, she started. My real name is Elena Vasquez Cordero. I come from a wealthy family in Mexico City. I was engaged to Ricardo Montoya, your biological father, in an arranged marriage, and I was in love with Miguel Rodriguez. Why did you never tell me? Because I was protecting you. From my past, from the truth, from everything. She took a deep breath. The fire was not an accident, Sophia. I started it. The confession hit me like a physical blow. You killed them? You killed my father? Tears streamed down her face. Ricardo was not a good man, mija. The marriage was arranged, yes, but it was also a prison sentence. Ricardo was violent, abusive. He beat me during our engagement, said it was to teach me obedience. My father knew and did nothing because the business merger was too important. When I got pregnant with you, I thought maybe things would change. But Ricardo got worse. He said if I ever tried to leave, he would take you from me the moment you were born. That I would never see my child again. I was trapped. So you killed him? I planned to run away with Miguel. We were going to leave Mexico, start over in the United States. But Ricardo found out. The night of the fire, he came to my room. He was drunk and angry. He said he was going to make sure I could never have children again. That he would beat me until I lost the baby. She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. We fought. He pushed me, and I fell into the fireplace. My dress caught fire. In the panic, I knocked over a lamp. The curtains went up. Everything happened so fast. Ricardo tried to help me at first, but then my father came in. They were arguing about what to do with me, whether to call for help or let me die. The smoke was so thick, I ran. I got out through a window and I just ran. And they died in the fire? She nodded. I didn't mean to kill them, but I won't say I mourned them either. They were going to destroy me. Destroy you before you were even born. Miguel helped me escape. He got us across the border, helped me get a new identity. For 2 years, we were a family. What happened with Miguel? She looked down at her hands. He loved me, but he couldn't love you. Every time he looked at you, he saw Ricardo. He saw the wealthy family that had treated him like dirt, the man I was supposed to marry. When he found out through the news that Ricardo was your biological father, something broke in him. He started drinking. He became angry, violent. Not towards you, never towards you, but towards me. He said I had used him, that I was just like all the other rich people who looked down on him. The night he left, he told me I had destroyed his life, that he should have left me to burn in that fire. Did you kill him? She looked at me with eyes full of pain. No, Mia, I swear to you I didn't. He left and I never saw him again. When they found his body months later, I knew people would assume I had something to do with it, but I didn't. Miguel destroyed himself with alcohol and grief and anger. I'll carry that guilt for the rest of my life. But I didn't kill him. Why live like this? I gestured around the tiny, shabby apartment. You came from money. You could have accessed funds, lived better even with a new identity, because every dollar I spent could be traced. The Mexican authorities and Ricardo's family were looking for me. If I had tried to access any of my family's money, they would have found us. So I worked. I cleaned houses because it was cash work, No records, no paper trail. I kept us hidden and safe. Everything I thought I knew was crumbling. So all the poverty, all the struggle, it was real? It was real, she said firmly. Just because I came from money doesn't mean I didn't work hard for you. I chose this life, Sophia. I chose poverty over wealth because it meant keeping you safe. I chose to clean toilets instead of living in luxury because it meant you could grow up free from my family's corruption and violence. Why didn't you tell me any of this? Because I wanted you to have a normal life. I wanted you to make choices based on who you wanted to be, not based on family drama and criminal investigations. I wanted you to be free in ways I never was. The weight of her words settled over me. All those years I had been ashamed of her. She had been protecting me. All those times I wished for a different mother, a wealthier mother. I had no idea that she had given up wealth for my safety. But the revelation wasn't over. My mother took a deep breath and continued. There's more you need to know, Sophia. Your father's family, the Montoyas. They never stopped looking for me. They blame me for Ricardo's death. They want revenge. About a year ago, they found me. What? How? She pulled up her sleeve, showing me a scar I had never noticed before. One of their people tracked me down. He confronted me at one of the houses I clean. Said the family wanted their grandchild back. They want you, Sophia. They want to claim you as Ricardo's heir. I felt sick. That's why you've been so distant lately. Why you stopped calling as much. I was trying to protect you. If they knew we were still in contact, they might go after you directly. I thought if I stayed away, they would focus on me and leave you alone. The anonymous letter, I said suddenly. The one that told me to investigate you. That was them, wasn't it? They wanted me to turn against you, she nodded. They're trying to drive a wedge between us. Make you hate me, distrust me. Then they can approach you directly, tell you about your wealthy heritage, offer you everything I couldn't give you. Once they have you, they'll control you, and the revenge they couldn't get on me. The manipulation was breathtaking, and I had fallen for it completely. I had hired the investigator, discovered the secrets, and now I was sitting here doubting everything about my mother. But something still didn't make sense. Mom, if all of this is true, why are you still here? Why not run again? Start over somewhere else? She looked at me with such sadness. Because I'm dying, Sophia. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I've known for 2 years. I don't have the strength to run anymore. And I needed to see you one more time before the end. Even if you hate me. Even if you can never forgive me for the lies. I needed to see my daughter. The world stopped. Everything else, all the revelations about Mexico and fires and false identities, faded into background noise. My mother was dying. Had been dying for 2 years. The same 2 years I had spent ignoring her calls, avoiding her, cutting her out of my life. 2 years, I whispered. You've known for 2 years and you never told me? You made it clear you didn't want me in your life. How could I burden you with my illness? By being my mother. By letting me choose whether to be there for you. Would you have come? She asked the question gently, but it cut deep. 2 years ago, when you were planning your wedding that I wasn't invited to. Would you have come if I had called and told you I was sick? Or would you have seen it as manipulation? An attempt to guilt you into including me? I had no answer because I knew the truth. 2 years ago, I probably would have thought exactly that. I would have assumed she was exaggerating or lying to get attention. I would have resented her for trying to interfere with my perfect new life. The person I was 2 years ago would not have come. I'm so sorry, I said, and the words felt pathetically inadequate. I'm so sorry for everything, for being ashamed of you, for cutting you out of my life, for not being there when you needed me, for being so blind and selfish and stupid. My mother reached across the table and took my hand. Oh, Mija, I forgive you. I've always forgiven you. You were young and trying to find your place in the world. I understood that. But I wasted so much time. 2 years I could have spent with you, and I threw them away because I was too proud and ashamed and foolish. Then don't waste any more time. She squeezed my hand with what little strength she had. I don't have long left, Sophia. The doctors say weeks, maybe a month. Spend that time with me now. Get to know the woman I really am, not the fiction I created to protect you. Over the next 3 weeks, I moved back into my mother's tiny apartment. Blake understood, supported my decision completely. I took a leave from my job and devoted every moment to being with her, and she told me everything. Not just about Mexico and the fire, but about her life before. She showed me photographs of her family estate, of the parties and the wealth and the gilded cage she had lived in. She told me about falling in love with Miguel, about the forbidden romance, about the night they ran away together. She told me about the early years in America, the fear and the struggle and the determination to build a life for us, about the job she worked, the discrimination she faced, the times she went hungry so I could eat, about watching me grow up and feeling simultaneously proud of my success and heartbroken by my growing distance. She told me about the cancer diagnosis, about choosing not to get treatment because she couldn't afford it and didn't want to die in debt, about continuing to work even as the disease destroyed her body because she needed to feel useful, needed to feel like she still had purpose. And she told me about her regrets, not about leaving Mexico or starting the fire or choosing poverty over wealth. Her only regret was that she hadn't been able to give me the financial security she had grown up with, that she had given me everything except the one thing I seemed to want most, money. "You gave me everything that mattered," I told her one evening as we sat together watching the sunset through her window. "Love, sacrifice, strength, determination. You gave me life and you gave me chances and you asked for nothing in return. That's worth more than any amount of money." She smiled, and in that smile I finally saw her clearly. Not the poor housekeeper I had been ashamed of, but the strong, courageous woman who had given up everything for my safety and happiness. But the story still had one more twist, one more revelation that would change everything one final time. We were sitting together one afternoon when there was a knock at the door. My mother's face went pale. "Don't answer it," she whispered. But the knocking continued, insistent. Then a man's voice called through the door. "Elena Cordero, we know you're in there. We know your daughter is with you. We just want to talk." I looked at my mother. "The Montoyas?" She nodded, fear clear in her eyes. Against her protests, I opened the door. 3 people stood there. An older couple and a younger man, all impeccably dressed. The woman's eyes went immediately to my mother, then to me, and I saw tears form. "You look just like him," she whispered. "Just like my son." These were Ricardo's parents. My biological grandparents, the people who had been hunting my mother for 27 years. The older man, stern and imposing, spoke. "My name is Eduardo Montoya. This is my wife Carmen, and our son Sebastian, Ricardo's younger brother. We need to talk to both of you." My mother tried to stand, to position herself between me and them, but she was too weak. I helped her back to her chair and stood protectively beside her. "You have 1 minute to explain why I shouldn't call the police," I said. Eduardo's expression softened slightly. "We're not here to hurt anyone. We're here to offer truth and possibly reconciliation." My mother laughed bitterly. "Reconciliation? You've been hunting me for 27 years. You sent someone to threaten me, to hurt me." Carmen stepped forward. "That wasn't us, Elena. Or at least not Eduardo and me." Sebastian, the younger brother I never knew existed, looked ashamed. "I was 15 when Ricardo died. I idolized him. When I learned what happened, I blamed Elena for everything. I've spent years trying to find her, to make her pay. But I never knew the full truth." "What truth?" my mother asked, her voice weak but defiant. Eduardo pulled out a folder from his briefcase. "After you disappeared, we hired investigators to find out what really happened that night. We discovered things about Ricardo that we had refused to see when he was alive. Medical records showing Elena's injuries, testimony from household staff about Ricardo's violence, evidence that our son was a monster. He killed himself," Carmen said quietly, tears streaming down her face. "The fire investigation was incomplete because we paid to have it closed quickly. We didn't want the scandal. But the original investigator kept his notes. Ricardo locked himself in that room with your father. They were arguing about what to do with you, Elena. Whether to force an abortion, whether to institutionalize you. Ricardo was drunk and knocked over a kerosene lamp. The fire spread before they could escape. You didn't kill them, Eduardo said to my mother. You survived them. And we are deeply, profoundly sorry for what our family put you through. My mother was sobbing. I've carried that guilt for 27 years. I thought I was a murderer. You were a victim, Carmen said. And we were wrong to hunt you, wrong to terrorize you. We lost our son, but that doesn't excuse what he did to you. What our family did to you. Sebastian stepped forward. I'm the one who sent the letter. I'm the one who hired someone to find you. I wanted to destroy your relationship with your daughter, the way I thought you destroyed my family. But when I finally learned the truth about Ricardo, I realized I was becoming just like him. Cruel, obsessed with revenge, unable to see my own role in causing pain. He turned to me. Sophia, I'm your uncle. I've been watching you from a distance for months. I saw how successful you've become, and I was consumed with jealousy and anger. But you deserve to know the truth about your father and your heritage. Not to hurt you, but because it's your right. My heritage? I looked at my mother. What does he mean? Eduardo spoke. Ricardo's estate was never settled. Legally, as his only child, you're entitled to inherit everything. We've been holding it in trust, hoping to find you someday. It's worth approximately $40 million. The number didn't even feel real. $40 million. The wealth I had spent my entire life envying others for having was legally mine. We don't expect you to forgive us, Carmen said. We just wanted you to know the truth, and to tell Elena that she's free. The investigation in Mexico has been officially closed. We used our influence to make sure of it. She's no longer a fugitive. She can live under her real name if she chooses. My mother looked at me, then back at the Montoyas. I don't want your money. I don't want anything from your family. I just want what little time I have left with my daughter. The money isn't ours to keep or give, Eduardo said gently. It's Sophia's by law. What she does with it is her decision. After they left, my mother and I sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she spoke. What are you going to do, mija? I don't know. Part of me wants to reject it all, to prove that money doesn't matter. But that would just be pride talking. The same pride that made me ashamed of you for so many years. You could use it to help people, she said softly. People like me. Single mothers struggling to survive. People who need medical care they can't afford. You could turn something born from violence and pain into something good. And that's exactly what I did. My mother passed away 4 days later. She died in a hospice facility that I paid for with an advance on the inheritance. She had her own room with a window overlooking a garden. She had nurses who treated her with dignity and respect. She had pain medication so she didn't suffer. And she had me, holding her hand until the very end. Her last words were the same as before. I'm proud of you, mija. No matter what, I was always proud of you. The funeral was larger than I expected. All those people who had known my mother, who had appreciated her kindness and hard work, came to pay their respects. Blake's family came. The Montoyas came and stood in the back, paying their respects from a distance. And I stood at the front, delivering a eulogy for the woman I had finally learned to appreciate too late. Elena Rodriguez, I said, my voice breaking, was not the person she pretended to be. She was so much more. She was a woman who gave up wealth and privilege for love, who survived abuse and tragedy, who protected her daughter at the cost of everything she had, who worked herself to death so I could have opportunities she never had, and who forgave me even when I didn't deserve forgiveness. I used the inheritance to create the Elena Rodriguez Foundation. It provides financial assistance for medical care to uninsured single mothers. It offers college scholarships to first-generation students from low-income backgrounds. It supports domestic violence survivors trying to escape abusive situations. Every dollar Ricardo Montoya left behind is now being used to help people he would have looked down on. Blake and I are still married. He stood by me through all of this, never judging me for my mistakes, always supporting my healing. We have a daughter now. Her name is Elena, after my mother. She's 3 years old, and she will grow up knowing her grandmother's story. Not the sanitized version, but the real one. The story of a woman who was both victim and survivor, who made mistakes and found redemption, who loved completely and asked for nothing in return. I keep my mother's old uniform in my closet. The same worn uniform I was once so ashamed of. Sometimes I take it out and hold it, running my fingers over the fabric that smells faintly of bleach and sacrifice. It reminds me of the cost of my pride and the value of humility. The Montoyas and I have developed an unexpected relationship. Sebastian especially has worked to make amends. He volunteers at the foundation, using his business skills to help us grow and reach more people. Carmen sends gifts for little Elena and shares stories about my biological father's childhood, before the violence and entitlement corrupted him. But the guilt never fully leaves. I wake up some mornings and reach for my phone to call my mother before remembering she's gone. I see women working as housekeepers, and I feel a wave of shame remembering how I looked at my own mother with contempt. I think about all the years I wasted, all the conversations we never had, all the love I rejected. I visit her grave every week. It's a modest headstone in a cemetery I can now afford to maintain in perpetuity. I bring fresh flowers, and I talk to her, telling her about Elena, about the foundation, about the lives we're changing in her name. Sometimes I imagine what she would say if she could respond. She would tell me to stop carrying so much guilt. She would say that she understood, that she forgave me long ago, that what matters is what I do now, not what I failed to do then. But understanding intellectually that she forgave me doesn't ease the ache in my heart. It doesn't bring back the time I wasted. It doesn't let me tell her one more time that I love her and have her hear it while she's still alive to appreciate it. The lesson I learned came too late for my mother, but maybe it can help someone else. You never truly know what you have until it's gone. You never understand the depth of a parent's sacrifice until you become a parent yourself. You never appreciate unconditional love until you lose it forever. To anyone listening who has a complicated relationship with their parents, who feels ashamed of where they came from, who has let pride or social pressure distance them from their family. I'm begging you. Don't wait. Don't make my mistake. Don't assume you have time to make things right later. Pick up the phone. Make the visit. Have the conversation. Ask the questions. Listen to the stories. Appreciate the sacrifices that were made for you. Even if they weren't perfect. Even if they weren't what you wanted. Even if they came from people who weren't wealthy or successful or impressive to others. Because someday those people will be gone, and you'll be left with nothing but regret and the crushing knowledge that you had something precious and irreplaceable, and you threw it away for things that ultimately don't matter. My name is Sofia Rodriguez Morrison. I'm the daughter of Elena Rodriguez, formerly Elena Vasquez Cordero. I'm the granddaughter of a hotel magnate and the daughter of a housekeeper. I inherited $40 million and learned it was worthless compared to what I lost. I'm a living reminder that success means nothing if it costs you your humanity. That wealth is empty if it requires you to abandon the people who loved you. That pride is the most expensive luxury of all because the price is measured in irreplaceable moments and irreversible regrets. My mother died believing I had forgiven her for not being the parent I wanted. But the truth is, I needed her forgiveness for not being the daughter she deserved. And while she gave it freely, completely, with her last breath, I will spend the rest of my life earning forgiveness from myself, because I had treasure in my hands and I didn't recognize it until I lost it forever. Don't be me, please. Learn from my mistakes. Love the people who sacrifice for you. Appreciate them now, while they're still here to feel your gratitude. And never, ever let pride or shame or social pressure convince you that anything in this world is more valuable than genuine love. Thank you for listening to my story. May it save you from the heartbreak that defines my life. May it remind you that some losses can never be recovered, some words can never be unsaid, and some goodbyes are final. Tell the people you love that you love them. Today, right now, before it's too late, and all you have left is a uniform that smells of bleach and a lifetime of regret. My mother's name was Elena Rodriguez. She was the strongest person I ever knew. And I wish I had told her that while she was still alive to hear it.